Good morning, St. Kitts and Nevis, and welcome to another edition of Inside the News. I'm Jermaine Abel sitting in. Sorry for the slight delay there. Technical difficulties. Technology fails us sometimes, but we have everything sorted now, so we'll begin the program this morning. We come on the air, and it is International Anti-Corruption Day today, Saturday, December 9th. We've been hearing a lot of talk about corruption and anti-corruption and the fight against corruption here in St. Kitts and Nevis. We heard about the good governance agenda from the Attorney General and the Prime Minister over the last year or so since the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party administration took over. Well, we'll take a look at a bit of that today on the program, at least for the first hour. But nevertheless, it's a bright day outside. Busy one on Port Zante as per usual. So we'll jump right into the program. As I say, when I'm in the hot seat, we go beyond the news and go beyond the politics, and we talk in general about how issues affecting you, the people in St. Kitts and Nevis, what implications that have, what are the implications for you, the people out there, as well as what's happening locally, regionally, and internationally, some of the big stories. And, we try to bring it home to you to give you a better understanding beyond the political realm of how these things are going to impact you. Earlier this week, we had the budget presentation on Nevis, where we heard Premier Mark Brantley read the budget there, and they had their debates over there. This coming week, actually, on Wednesday, the Prime Minister will present the appropriations for 2024 in Parliament, and then the debates will begin on Thursday itself. So that's some of what we had. We also had the Prime Minister and the contingent there of the contingent from St. Kitts presenting the Federation's position when it comes to climate change at COP28. We heard from Dr. Drew, Dr. Douglas, Minister Conrad Maynard, as well as Environmental Minister Dr. Joel Clark. And they laid out some interesting positions and called for more support for small island states like St. Kitts and Nevis. We also heard from various prime ministers across the region surrounding the challenges small island states in the region are facing when it comes to climate change, increasing temperatures. That was something that affected all of us across the world. The significant heat that we saw, well, what they classify as a summer period, we're always in summer, so it was 100 plus degrees here in St. Kitts and Nevis and some of the other territories. The U.S. was baking. July, August, September were some of the hottest months on record. We also saw powerful hurricanes. We're consistently seeing significant storms coming our way. The sea levels are rising. We're seeing coastal erosions, and now we're seeing the return of mosquito-borne diseases such as dengue, which we've not necessarily been seeing in certain parts of the world, especially here in St. Kitts and Nevis. We haven't been seeing it in recent times, and it being of any significance for us. We, as they say in local colloquial terms, it in here, so it's not affecting us. But it has been across the region. But in recent weeks and months, we've been seeing a significant spike in cases of dengue. From the last report, Nevis confirmed 100 or something cases or something like that. And then there are significant samples that were sent overseas for testing as well. So all of that has been connected to climate change, and the experts have been speaking about that. The fishermen, they have now been forced to go further out to sea to ply their trade, to get their catch, and the landings have slightly decreased in some instances. And some of the type of fishes that they will normally catch closer to shore, they're not getting those. So it has been a mixed bag for us here in the Federation when it comes to climate change, and the region as well when it comes to climate change. So they have been out there and they've been speaking a lot on this particular issue, and I think it's something that we all in the Federation should be paying close attention to. And we heard as well coming out of COP28, which continues up until the 12th, which wraps up on the 12th. Hopefully, normally these debates and so forth oftentimes continue well into well beyond the expected close date for COPs, meetings. So that's some of what we heard from our officials here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Regionally, well, we've had major developments since I was last on with you. We had the Guyana and Venezuela ongoing border dispute down there. Last weekend, we saw the resolution for the referendum rather from Venezuela, which saw significant support from the people over the weekend. 95% of the voter turnout voted voted in support of the three questions connected to Guyana and the controversial Essequibo region. That made significant news across the region because that as well has significant implications for us here in St. Kitts and Nevis as well as territories across the Caribbean region. We may not look at it from that perspective, but it has significant repercussions for us here in St. Kitts and Nevis if Venezuela is successful in annexing 2/3 of Guyana. Then we heard as well that there were a helicopter crashed in Guyana, and that resulted in the death of 5 army soldiers who were flying over the border, flying in the border region with Venezuela, Guyana and Venezuela, and they crashed, and that country is in a period of mourning. Internationally now, we heard last evening that the son of U.S. President Joe Biden has been indicted on an additional 5 charges in connection with not paying his taxes. They were saying that he was deliberate in terms of his approach to not filing his taxes and all of that. And most of this is in connection to what he actually published in his memoir. So, yes. So that's some of what we've been hearing, some of the big news that we heard this week, and there were others as well. And if you care to call in and share your thoughts, you can do that as well. But as I said, today is Anti-Corruption Day across the world. It's United Nations Anti-Corruption Day. And a bit of what the United Nations said, the World Anti-Corruption Day the world today faces some of its greatest challenges in many generations, challenges which threaten prosperity and stability for people across the globe. The plague of corruption is intertwined in most of them. Corruption has negative impacts on every aspect of society and is profoundly intertwined with conflict and instability. Corruption not only follows conflicts, but is also frequently one of its root causes. It fuels conflicts and inhibits peace processes by undermining the rule of law. Preventing corruption, promoting transparency, and strengthening institutions is critical if the targets foreseen in the Sustainable Development Goals are to be met. The 2023 International Anti-Corruption Day seeks to highlight the crucial link between anti-corruption and peace, security, and development. At its core is the notion that tackling this crime is the right and responsibility of everyone, and that only through cooperation and the involvement of each and every person and institution can we overcome the negative impact of this crime. The 2023 International Anti-Corruption Day commemorates the 20th anniversary of the United Nations Convention Against Corruption. As we celebrate this milestone, we reflect on the positive changes brought about by the collective efforts driven by the convention. Equally crucial is our examination of the remaining gaps that require attention. to ensure that this mechanism continues to strengthen in the years ahead. That's a bit of what the United Nations said ahead of today being Anti-Corruption Day across the world. Yes. As I said, as we begin this discussion surrounding corruption and anti-corruption, yesterday, the Ministry of Legal and Justice Affairs, and the minister, along with the Integrity and Public Life Commissions from both St. Kitts and Nevis, and the DPP, held a press conference yesterday. But let's go to the phone lines first. I have a caller. Caller, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Mr. Abel. How are you?
I'm well. Good morning. How are you?
Man, I'm here giving God thanks. Great to be alive. God has been answering prayer. I've been praying, Lord, please send us some rain. Because while we don't want hurricane, we want rain. And we did not get enough. You realize that?
That is true. That is true.
So I am praying all through December rain. We are accustomed to get a lot of rain in late December.
But the thing is, though, Miss Henry, is the Hydrology and Meteorology Center in Barbados, which is a Caribbean center, they expect for us to have dry conditions heading into the early in the new year, probably January or mid-February.
Yeah, I think they say another front coming through.
I'm not sure, but that was the last that we heard surrounding.
Yeah, well, we need the rain.
We definitely
I heard
need
Mr. Politics who keep cattle,
Yeah.
So by the time the sun, when we don't get enough and the sun comes out, we're back to where we started.
Even this morning, coming here, it was I was sweating, and that don't normally happen a lot. So yeah.
So anyway, let me tackle one of the issues. Yesterday, I put on the thing late because I was nowhere of the time when it's going to start. But Freedom was doing some replaying of the meeting yesterday.
The press
conference. Round table or whatever table.
Round table. You're talking about, well, okay, go ahead.
Anti-Corruption Day.
Yeah, well, it's a press conference that they had yesterday.
Right. I don't know who asked the question, but in answering, the person indicated that 2 elected officials have not yet submitted their report?
Yes.
Now, that statement was made earlier, And the reason given that they were overseas. Well, since that time, I don't know if you could click your brain. It was Dr. Douglas and Congress. But I don't know if it's the same too.
Well, that's the thing. The problem is... and I was actually about to go.
That did indicate who the 2 were, was it?
Yeah, that was previously, right? But the concern is to, and this is where I particularly don't want to call any names in terms of who did or who did not. I know, but the person did indicate who they were, right? Yeah, but that was
I am
previously.
saying to myself, these were the 2 that said who had not filed as yet.
Yeah, but
so are they the same? I want the journalist ask that question.
But the thing is, right, Ms. Henry, and this is the point I was about to make. The reason why we are not mentioning any names is because the commission said they're not going to disclose those names right now. They're going to forward.
They already did it.
Hold on. Yes, but that's the thing. Between when they made that announcement to now, those 2 representatives probably could have filed, right? We don't know.
No, the next
right.
set.
Hold on. Just quickly, Ms. Henry. Right. But the thing is, the commission at this point in time, they're not going to disclose certain names. I was going to play some clips, but, you began the discussion. But continue. I just want to make that point. Yeah.
Now, the lady did also indicate that a number of government workers, I suppose they mean directors and permanent secretaries and so. And they gave the time frame, and up to now, they have not filed. And the person spoke about if they do not respond, they would have to take legal action. Well, I hope they do. Because, you see, people have the idea that you can't do them anything. The law clearly states those persons who are required to file. They were to file by July. Is July, right?
April.
Some of them were by April depending on when you came into the government.
No, the deadline normally is April, but anybody who comes in after that period, I
Right,
suspect
it was July.
Yeah, would have to submit for the next deadline.
Yeah, by July. So she has given them time by the end of this month. Now, what you call that kind of behavior? So when we are talking about integrity in public life, and you have people who are covered by the law, not complying, what you call that?
You see, and you've raised a valid point there, right, Miss Henry? But I think we had a kind of a discussion yesterday after the press conference, and what we suspect is happening is, even though Miss Henry is going to come on Inside the News and talk about this, right? She's going to talk about all of this. How many people really pay attention to what is being said? And this is an issue that we found all across the board. You bring something new, you put something new in place. Do you give people proper education? I'm not saying that wasn't the case.
I know,
right?
but in those people's case, given their position, and again, the act was read in Parliament, the information is put on SKNIS. So they themselves, because the truth is, the list was shortened, you know. You know that, right?
Exactly.
A lot of the persons who really should have been under the act were taken out. I think they said it was 140. It boiled down to much, not even quarter of that.
But that's the thing, right? I think for now, and they probably would have to put out the information again in terms of who has to file, because I'm not sure people quite comprehend who has, because a colleague asked me a question yesterday, right? And even those people who...
She said she sent letters. She said that they were sent letters and they have not replied.
And they have not replied, right?
That's what you call that, insubordination.
But it's not just insubordination. I think the problem that we have, and it's a broad problem, right? But oftentimes we believe that some aspect of the law does not come to us.
Don't mean them, right?
Right, and I think that was one issue that has to be addressed. And I think based on what the DPP said yesterday, you know, he's not mincing his words. He's not playing it, right? Just file. If you and my thing is, and based on what the chairperson said yesterday,
yes.
she's very flexible, especially for those unseen kids. She's very flexible when it comes specifically to you. And for me, if it's the case that you are in that category, then just reach out to them to say, give me an extended time of X, Y, and Z, a week or two, and I will submit. And I suspect that's what a lot of people, based on what the DPP said yesterday, a lot of people will be reaching out to them.
He's fed up. He's fed up, you know, because as he said, right, people assume certain things, that if they're in certain position, they could do anything and get away with it. Because when I heard two elected, he said, you know, elected our members of parliament. I think that's, by the way, let me ask another question while I'm on the line. Seeing that divisions file in Nevis, do they send the same filing to the commission, those got in the house, eh? I mean,
no.
The three?
No.
What's the position?
No. So that was a question that we spoke to the Attorney General about after the press conference yesterday. And he said this is something that they will have to look at going forward to ensure that it is in sync. So instead of Mr. Abel filing on Nevis and then has to come over, because I suspect St. Kitts is a little bit broader than Nevis, right? So what they're planning to do specifically is ensure that it's in sync. So as you know, he said, you know, they can't just go and update the legislation, but he wants it to be in sync. So if a declaration is filed on Nevis, you don't have to come and refill again the form on St. Kitts, you just just make it one thing to send it across. So it's not a case that because you file on Nevis, you automatically file on St. Kitts.
You don't think corruption is ingrained in our society now? That is why I say they should file these things here, publish them in the papers. Because the people could be daring. Because they're daring the people, Because the people, he spoke out of frustration. Imagine he sent you a letter, and some they don't even respond, so they give me a little more time.
Well, it's not him, but I get what you're saying, though. But you're correct, Miss Henry. I think it's out of frustration that some of the comments were made yesterday, that people are not getting up to date with their declarations.
They're not taking anything seriously.
And you have just about 4 months left to file your next declaration. Yes, because
before I go, now I listened to excerpts from the Nevis budget report. Right, Mr. Brantley was talking about some measures. He did not indicate that we would get any double. Now, usually, if Nevis can't, then St. will have to upfront it. Now, if you notice, did you listen? The measures they were going to use to increase the revenue. Did you pay attention to them?
To be honest, I did not focus on Nevis budget.
Well, he spoke about the daily rate at the hospital. He said it would have to go up because people are paying $20, like in St. Kitts. In St. Kitts, some of them don't even pay the 20. And they get free medical attention, bed, 3 meals, and medication. So they'll have to carry it up. He went on to indicate that even though seniors are exempt, he says many of them have medical insurance, and therefore they should be made to pay, because the only person thinking would be the insurance companies who benefit. You understand that one, right?
Mm-hmm.
He spoke about getting inland revenue tax clearance, because it is required if you want to get government jobs and so. Certain business license we're talking about. You will not be given a business license if you have not paid your house and land tax, if you have not paid your, I think, Social Security. Some other thing to talk about. So, you're not just going to go and say you want this income tax clearance to go and bid on government property. And they're going to institute a more vigorous house and land tax. But the truth is, Nevians are not accustomed to pay taxes, And I say it from my work experience.
But I don't know about that, so I can't justify that one. But
well, I could tell you. I tell you, right? When the work I used to do.
Okay, Ms.
And
Henry,
they own large tracts of land, and when they start to value the land and you put the tax on the land, this is where part of the problem starts. Because you might be poor and have 3-4 acres of land, but the tax on that land may be prohibitive. So maybe something might have to be done in that case. Or they may have to sell a portion of the land to pay the tax.
Okay, Ms. Henry, you can call back in, but I have to.
Yeah, but so check out
partners.
that. Because I get a feeling that what went on in the Nevis Assembly will go on in St. Kitts. Taxes and fees going up.
Okay. All right. You can call back in, Ms. Henry, but we have to acknowledge the people who make this program possible right now.
Are you tired of constantly having to repaint? Then it's time to level up your paint game with Harris Paints. With Quantum I-12 technology, Harris gives you better colors that last longer and takes less coats. So this Christmas, level up your savings with 15% off 1 and 5 gallons of top quality Ultima Plus available at TDC. Then, with each purchase, play the Harris mobile game for chances to win the grand prize of $3,000 cash. Now that's a level up only from Harris Paints.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
And we're back. We're back here on Inside the News. Today is World Anti-Corruption Day. It's a day designated by the United Nations. I just wanted to clarify something. I know just now Ms. Henry did say, did mention two names surrounding whether or not they had filed. That was when the announcement was made previously. Yesterday's announcement, no names were mentioned. At the time, we can only suspect who they are, right? But they've been given a clarion call has been made for all public officials who have not yet filed their declarations with the Integrity Commission to do so. They did not mention who they are. They did not give a specific number in terms of how many people have not yet filed their declarations. But we did know that two elected officials have not yet declared their assets. And the Attorney General and the DPP, they've been very strong in calling for all public officials to declare their assets. They don't want to go down the road of having to file charges, but based on what the new Director of Public Prosecution said yesterday, Adlai Smith, is that he is not playing when it comes to this specifically. Right, we go back to the phone lines and hear from this caller. Caller, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, man. How you doing, man?
I'm well, sir.
Yeah, man. Great discussion, man. It's interesting to see that these guys go in Parliament, pass these rules and regulations, and they don't want to abide by it. The people be calling out for change, and when these guys campaign, they was talking big about such things. So basically, my opinion, they don't really want to do it, man. They be passing these rules and regulations, but really and truly, they be passing stuff, and then the stuff just stays there, dormant. You know what I mean? It's time for these guys to act. If they don't want to act, then we just make an action in the next election. That's all. Nice and easy, or we could go in the street and protest peacefully. That's the only two options I see when it comes to this political game down there in St. Kitts and Nevis. You know what I mean? But I like when that lady comes on, man. She got the in-depth knowledge, and, some people don't like to hear what she's saying, but she makes great contributions, you know what I mean? And some of your other callers as well. But me, I've been listening from afar and observing. A lot of stuff I don't like what I see, man. The corruption is too high in St. Kitts and Nevis. A lot of corruption running through that islands, bro. And nobody really want to do the real honest work to clean it up. And they know how the corruption affect GDP. And if they don't get the corruption down minimally, then the country will be in the same position.
But caller,
with the corruption.
Caller, and you made that point there, but I just want to ask you on that same note, right? Would you say that the current administration and the previous administrations have made strides in terms of putting legislation in place to combat corruption? Because we've seen the former administration pass several legislations. The new Labour administration, they've implemented what they described as a good governance agenda, which includes some legislation to tackle corruption.
Yeah. Well, definitely. I mean, we can't just be one-sided in our comments. You know what I mean? And yeah, I would answer that question as saying yes, directly. They're making strides. That's correct. But maybe some of us are not seeing it. We wanted it faster. We wanted to come faster. You know what I mean? You know, but we sometimes have to have a little patience too as well, because a lot of these things is intricate. You know what I mean? But for me, I want to see the change come, and I want to see the change happen. But that's me. You know what I mean? I want to see some action, man. We've been talking about these things for a long time, man. You know, me myself, I've been out of the politics, like not connected with the politics for a while. But I got reconnected around 2013, and I've been following thus far. And a lot of things that when I was a little boy growing up, a lot of things people been asking for back then still happening today. They're still asking for the same stuff. But yeah, these man, they're making some stride. I'll give them some kudos on that level. You know what I mean? But keep it coming, and let's deal with the intangibles. The same integrity in public life and transparency and all this stuff. This is where the people is asking for the change to happen. So we want to see this keep coming, and we want to see the real change happening.
Okay, just
on the Nevis side.
Oh, go ahead.
On the Nevis side, with this budget, you know, when you look at these figures, man, you know, me personally, I mean, I believe the man on the Nevis side is in trouble, man, financially. You know, the debt is like half $500 million. And I've seen some figures with the budget. The new budget was allocated $282 million total. And total revenues, projected revenues, $154 million. And when you look at these figures, man, this stuff don't add up, bro. You know what I mean? They're not concentrating and decreasing the big debt, the total debt. They can't make a debt they can't make a dent in that debt with a projected of 154 million coming in, and the overall debt is 500 and almost 50 million. You know, that's not even going to scale that debt, man, at all. So if the debt is going to increase by percentage, 6%, 5% each year, you know, this debt is going to keep climbing towards $1 billion, easy. You know what I mean? But the reckless spending, man, on both sides of the equation, I believe it's starting to really affect the Nevis side until when we get the national budget this week coming up here. In Nevis, again, you know, these numbers don't really add up to me. You know what I mean? And that debt is not going to get touched at all. And the reckless spending on the Nevis side is showing me that now they're talking about, like, charging more for services at the hospital and going after collections for water bill and light bills and stuff like that. That's telling me and showing me that because of their reckless spending, now the taxpayers and the consumers got to pay. Okay, but I keep listening, man.
Okay, just quickly before you go, caller, in 30 seconds, just give me quickly in 30 seconds, because I have to take another break. But what do you expect? What more can the society do in order to hold our leaders accountable when it comes particularly to the issue of good governance and the integrity in commission and filing these declarations and, you know, minimizing corruption in St. Kitts and Nevis in general? 30 seconds.
Yeah, well, real quickly, the power is in the hands of the people. And whenever any of these issues rise to the national level, they become national issues and not no party issues and no bipartisan issues. So then, therefore, the people need to come together and protest in the street peacefully so that they could push back on these politicians and hold them accountable. Because to me, right now, the opposition on both sides is not strong. I don't see that they have a opposition even, both on both islands. The islands are deadlocked across the Narrows right now. You know what I mean? Opposition is weak on both St. Kitts and Nevis. So there's none on Nevis for sure, because they don't have an opposition leader over there. But with Brantley being the opposition leader in the federal house, and he being the premier on Nevis, and he's been cooperating with Drew and them right now, it's as if like he's not opposing now. So it seems like it's just deadlocked to me across the Narrows. But the people got the power. They should go in the street for peaceful protest when the issues rise to the national level. Other than that, they got to wait out the term until when the next election comes up. But that's my quick answer, man. Good luck to you guys, man. I'll keep listening off the ear. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, caller. And that caller was sharing his insights in terms of corruption and anti-corruption and Nevis. I just want again to reiterate something just to set the record straight again. surrounding names being called who did not file their declarations. As I've said before, we know names were called prior to the deadlines and all of that, and who was not in syndicates and all of that, and who did not file. At yesterday's press conference, it was never mentioned who did not file, who did not declare their assets and sent their files over to the commission. I know we had a caller who said that, and again, I just want to set the record straight, because I've been told, and I received a message that indicated that one of the names mentioned actually filed their declaration, and I have a specific date in my phone right now. The person who sent the information gave me a specific date. Right, I just want to set the record straight on that. Right, so again, the commission yesterday never disclosed who specifically were the persons or the person or persons who have not filed the declaration. I just wanted to clarify that specifically, just to clear the air. Go back to the phone lines and hear and we hear from this. And we hear from the caller. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Yes. And as we are on the Integrity in Public Life Commission, Carl Brown here, and good morning to the listeners home and abroad. What I have to ask, sir, how much teeth and what length of teeth this Public Integrity Commission have? Because remember, on the Unity, Nevis has set up the one, and that didn't even got gum. Yeah? Think it's had set up one that not had gum, teeth, mouth, nor nose.
Yes,
right?
but
the question I am asking, and the public wants to know, is how much teeth and what length of teeth this integrity in public life and this commission that they're asking everybody to reveal the assets and all kind of thing. Because it makes no sense. That ain't gonna stop corruption here, because I could be one of those persons. I could put up my asset and my cash could be $1 million, $2 million. But here, I'm the minister. Remember, the ministers, them don't handle the funding for where they get out of the budget to run the ministries, you know. But you still find that they end up in corruption. You still find they end up on taking money under the table and all kind of things.
Yes, but hold on. Caller.
Yes.
Okay, let me respond partially to that question. The Integrity Commission received its teeth when this administration took over, because, you know, they've been passing the good governance agenda and all of that. So it received the necessary legislative framework that was needed to get it operationalized, right? That's part of this administration's good governance agenda. So it is functioning. What happened now is they've been asking, and I don't remember which month it was in this year, that the administration came to Parliament and they passed the legislation outlining who are the individuals, whether it be a director, PS, deputy PS, the ministers, everybody, including the commissioners themselves, have to file their declaration, right? They will then, whenever they sit down and do their analysis to input the information, let's say 2023 is the base year that they're using for this, for the operation of the commission. When everybody files their documents, this is the base year. If Mr. Abel got $10 million in assets, whatever it is, and for 2024 it balloons to $20 million, he now has to justify how he got an additional $10 million when he's a farmer. Based on that, they will then make certain recommendations whether or not to be the special prosecutor special prosecutor or the director of public prosecution to further investigate these supposed issues, that the discrepancies that they would have found. When that is done, the DPP or whomever will then put forward a recommendation. No charges, everything is justified. Whether or not they found that some corruption occurred, then they'll proceed in that direction.
And another question, has they revealed these members of this integrity commission to the general public?
That has been wide knowledge. We, since what I think was last year's anti-corruption time week, somewhere around there, the entire commission on St. Kitts, along with the commissioners on Nevis, came out when they disclosed that they did not have teeth at the time to operationalize and function as a commission. They disclosed that. Nevis has also disclosed who their commissioners are. So to answer your question broadly, directly, yes.
Up to last year and early part of this year, that integrity in Nevis didn't got no teeth. Right? So our question is, right, when they do these investigations and say they find out Carl Brown achieve another $10 million within a year or 2 years, and I can't confirm how I achieved $10 million in the last 2 years. This special commissioner, who is he or she?
You mean the special prosecutor?
Yes.
Well, yesterday we got a little bit more insight in terms of who some of these people are and who will be acting in certain capacities. I was going to play some clips, but the callers are weighing in right now. But I think that the Attorney General did mention that in the interim, the DPP is going to be acting as the special prosecutor at this time. Right, but I can back check that and come back in the next hour and confirm.
The DPP of the Federation?
Yes, we have a new DPP.
So let me ask you a question.
But just quickly though, 30 seconds because I have to take a break before we end.
Don't you think as the DPP, and then the DPP is nominated as the special prosecutor, and if this matter, the matter have to go to the court. Say Carl Brown have to go to the court because I could not give account of my $10 million that I have made in the last 2 years. How is he going to be the DPP and the special prosecutor? Don't you see that is conflict of interest?
Again, we jump in the gun here, and I get your question, right? And it's indeed a pertinent question, but they're not necessarily, and this is something that the media pushed to get clarified yesterday, and they reiterated this point, Kyle. I have to take a break, but I just want to respond to the question.
All right.
Yeah. What was said was, I'm not going to come and run after you just because you didn't do something. What they're going to do, they're going to carry out a thorough investigation to determine the source of your funding, the source of your revenue, the source of your assets. If it's a case that it is determined that this is what it is, it was ill-gotten gains, then they're going to move along that side. That will then be addressed by the relevant people. But if it's a case that they found that, yes, John Doe did work, he did investments and whatever it is, and it's a legitimate transaction, that's how it's going to go. But the bottom line is they're not going to jump to conclusion without carrying out a thorough investigation to determine the source of funding that, the source of the revenue and the assets at this point in time. But I just want to quickly take a break because we're winding down. But again, I just want to, before we go to the break, just to reiterate that the commission yesterday never indicated who the two people are that did not file, the two elected representatives are who did not file their declarations just yet. I just want to reiterate that because I know I've been getting messages about it, and I just want to clarify that on the record, so the public can get a better understanding. And there were no names mentioned. And as I said before, I will not call any names because I don't have verification of these individuals who did not file their declarations. But we'll come right back and continue with the discussion on the other side of the break.
People make the world go.
Let TDC Financial Services help you go for your goals. Whether you're thinking of taking that grand vacation, down payment on a house, higher education, TDC Financial Services has various plans that will allow you to go for your goals. Choose from the Accumulator Plus, Investment Starter Plan, and Fixed Deposit. Ready to go for your goals? Visit us at TDC Financial Services, where money is made easy.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go.
Back here on Inside the News. I'm German Abel sitting in today, and we're looking at anti-corruption. It's International Anti-Corruption Day, which was a day recognized by the United Nations. And I gave a bit of what the United Nations said about today. I must say that the current administration, under the Attorney General Garth Wilkin, has been passing legislation under the quote-unquote good governance agenda that tackles corruption. Yesterday, at the press conference, when he was asked about what specifically or what more they will look to implement to deal with and prevent corruption in St. Kitts and Nevis, he did mention that the next piece of legislation that could be passed or would be passed or will be passed is tackling the procurement, which has been a source of contention in St. Kitts and Nevis when it comes to quote-unquote corruption. And that's one of the things that he did mention that they're going to seek to tackle. Likely it's going to be in the new year as well. But we go back to the phone lines and hear from this caller. Well, we lost that caller. We go to this caller. Caller, good morning, and you're the final caller before we close out.
Good morning, sir. Here again. I have to come back to
Yeah, but you have to keep it. But you have to keep it short,
conflict of
though,
interest. Because
Carl.
it's like you're saying the DPP as the special prosecutor. It's like he's judge and lawyer. How could you be judge and lawyer in the same court?
Okay. I wouldn't say put it that way, right? Because again, the DPP, and then he has people who are also working with him, right? But make your point.
So which hat he's going to hold in if a matter reach to court? He's the DPP and the special prosecutor.
But again, but
which hat he's going to carry in the courthouse?
Carl, like I said before, right? I just want to clarify that this is exactly what was said yesterday. And I said I'll come back in the second hour and give more clarification on it, whether or not that is exactly what was said. Right. So you can call back in, make that point in the second half of the program. But just let me clarify that is what was said.
We're going to have to relieve him of one of his hats. He cannot carry two hats.
Carl, let me clarify it first, and then in the second hour we can continue with that discussion specifically. Right. So, like I said, let me get back on that one, because from my recollection, that's what was said yesterday, that he's going to be acting in that capacity in the interim. But I don't want to put it I don't want to say that and then that's not what was said. So let me get back on that one and confirm that that's exactly what it is, because like I said, I had some clips to play from yesterday's press conference. We'll hear more about those in the second half of the program. But today's war is International Anti-Corruption Day, and it is where, the attention is being the spotlight is being placed on corruption across the world and how best we can mitigate those instances of corruption. Again, when I'm in the hot seat hosting Inside the News, I like to go beyond the issue of politics, name calling, and how issues in St. Kitts and Nevis are affecting you and solutions. Because we can talk politics now and then, from now until next year, it's not going to solve the problem and issues that we are facing here in St. Kitts and Nevis. I like to go beyond the headlines to discuss these issues and how best we can find solutions to them. Right? It's just about time for the headline news here on WIN FM. Yes, it's just about time for the headline news. So we'll take a break in the interim for that, and then when we come back, we'll continue with the discussion. Yesterday specifically was a press conference to discuss anti-corruption, the IPL, and the fact that a lot of people have not been filing their declarations, right? We heard as well a bit, issues coming out of Guyana and surrounding the Guyana-Venezuela issue, border controversy down there. We were hoping to get one of the government officials to be on the program to discuss measures and what are their plans going forward to deal with this issue. We're hoping to get that person for the second half of the program, because we've been seeing since the referendum a number of positions have been taken by Venezuela and Guyana, and yesterday we heard CARICOM had an emergency heads of government meeting to discuss specifically discuss this issue and the implications for the rest of the Caribbean region. So we have to keep a close watch on that, even though we're not close by Venezuela right now. It has broad, far-reaching implications for all of us here in the Caribbean. And internationally, we heard last evening that the son of the United States President, Hunter Biden, has been indicted on more charges surrounding his failure to disclose his taxes. But we'll continue with these and other discussions on the other side of the break. It's now time to hear from the newsroom on the big stories affecting the people of St. Kitts and Nevis today. So I'll see you just around 12:30, 12:35 after the news.
sound. 98.9. Win FM.
We now bring you the headline news. The headline news is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, and Carib Brewery.
When it comes to the important things in life, your health, your education, your choice of a life partner, and of course your insurance provider, only the best will do. Caribbean Alliance Insurance is the only insurance company in the Eastern Caribbean with an A excellent rating. We have a robust 3-tier reinsurance strategy that protects our policyholders from multiple catastrophes, even if they occur in quick succession. We spread our risks over 18 territories, ensuring minimal impact to individual territories when a disaster strikes. We provide an excellent claims experience. Claim settlement is usually between 24 to 48 hours. Our A excellent rating means that you are more secure with us. Contact us for motor, property, marine, public liability, employer's liability, and other policies. Dalil Walwyn, people you can trust. Local agent for Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tomorrow secured.
With over a century of perfection behind the Mackeson name, a smooth blend with perfect balance and richness, it's no wonder Mackeson Triple Stout has a legacy of perfection. Enjoy the world over. Introducing our new look with the same great taste. Mackeson. All hail the king.
Please drink responsibly.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
With the WINNFM Midday News, I am Kevon Brown. Our top stories: St. Kitts and Nevis commemorates International Anti-Corruption Day. Good governance transformation underway. Survivors and bodies of GDF copter crash brought out. Internationally Israel-Lebanon border. Steady buildup of hostilities for the past 2 months. Now the details. December 9th is International Anti-Corruption Day, commemorated worldwide to stamp out corrupt practices, especially in public sectors. According to the United Nations, corruption is a complex social, political, and economic phenomenon affecting all countries, undermining democratic institutions, slowing economic development, and contributing to governmental instability. Quote, corruption attacks the foundation of democratic institutions by distorting electoral processes, perverting the rule of law, and creating bureaucratic quagmires whose only reason for existing is the soliciting of bribes. Economic development is stunted because foreign direct investment is discouraged, and small businesses within the country often find it impossible to overcome the startup costs required because of corruption. End quote. The General Assembly adopted the United Nations Convention Against Corruption on October 31, 2003. and since then 190 parties have committed to the convention's anti-corruption obligations. The Assembly designated December 9th as International Anti-Corruption Day to raise awareness of corruption and the role of the convention in combating and preventing it. The day is being observed under the theme United Nations Convention Against Corruption at 20, Uniting the World Against Corruption, as the world continues to face some of its most significant challenges in many generations. Quote, corruption not only follows conflict, but is also frequently one of its root causes. It fuels conflict and inhibits peace processes by undermining the rule of law, worsening poverty, facilitating the illicit use of resources, and providing financing for armed conflict. End quote. Preventing corruption, promoting transparency, and strengthening institutions are crucial, especially in striving for the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. St. Kitts and Nevis joins the world in commemoration of the day and held a press conference on St. Kitts and Nevis Good Governance Transformation, a collaborative effort between the Attorney General's Office and Ministry of Justice and Legal Affairs, where the press had the opportunity to interact with the Honorable Garth Wilkin, Attorney General and Minister of Justice and Legal Affairs, Adlai Smith, Director of Public Prosecutions and Special Prosecutor, the Federal Integrity Commission, the Nevis Integrity Commission, and the Ombudsman/Information Commissioner on the work to stamp out corruption in the Federation. In an address to mark the day, the Attorney General spoke of the work done in anti-corruption efforts in the Federation.
Fellow Kittitians and Divisions, home and abroad, and all persons who choose our beloved Federation to be your home. On December 9th, 2023, we join with the international community of responsible nations in observing International Anti-Corruption Day. As we observe this solemn occasion, I stand before you to reflect on the negative impact of corruption, the crucial importance of eradicating it, and the strides our nation has taken in the past few months in the relentless fight against this pervasive menace. Corruption, in all its forms, inflicts severe harm upon our society. It undermines the very fabric of justice, hampers economic progress, and erodes public trust in our institutions. The corrosive effects of corruption spare no one, threatening the well-being of our citizens and the sustainable future of our beloved Federation. Eradicating corruption is not merely an ethical imperative, but a pragmatic necessity. It is a commitment to justice, fairness, and the prosperity of our nation. Corruption siphons resources away from critical sectors, hindering our ability to provide essential services, promote economic growth, and invest in the well-being of our people. A corrupt society breeds inequality, obstructs opportunities for the vulnerable, and fetters the dreams and aspirations of our youth. Therefore, the eradication of corruption is a collective responsibility, a shared commitment to building a St. Kitts and Nevis where every citizen can thrive without fear or favor. After all, as it is said in our Constitution, we are people who desire the creation of a climate of economic well-being in the context of respect for law and order. In our unwavering pursuit of a corruption-free future, St. Kitts and Nevis has embarked on a comprehensive legal reform journey. Our Federation proudly joins our trustworthy colleagues in the international community to stand united against corruption, with a formidable arsenal of legislative measures aimed at safeguarding the integrity of our institutions. Our new Anti-Corruption Act, brought into force on December 8, 2023, establishes specific and wide-ranging corruption offenses and clearly delineates what actions will no longer be tolerated by senior government officials, the public service, state entity employees, and public sector contractors. The Act also creates the Office of the Special Prosecutor to monitor and investigate reported corrupt activities in government. This year, we amended and fully operationalized our Integrity in Public Life Act to require high-level public officials to disclose their assets, liabilities, and income annually. This transparency measure, overseen by the Integrity Commission, reinforces our commitment to public office accountability. The Freedom of Information Act, also amended and activated this year, empowers the public and press to access non-confidential government information, promoting transparency and removing the widely perceived cloak of public sector secrecy. Delegated information officers in each ministry will facilitate this access, marking a significant step towards openness in government. The brand new Whistleblower Protection Act 2023, also brought into force on December 8th, acknowledges the vital role of whistleblowers and acts as a shield to those who expose corrupt activities within the public service. It therefore complements the Anti-Corruption Act, giving teeth to our fight against corruption. And lastly, but not by any means the least, the Unauthorized Disclosure of Official Information Act 2023 creates a robust legal framework to prevent the unauthorized leaks of sensitive, confidential, and privileged government information, ensuring that the proper avenue to government information is through the mechanisms of the Freedom of Information Act. Just as corrupt persons can give benefits or contracts to illicit actors, so can corrupt persons leak confidential state information to criminals and terrorists for a fee. This act aims to close that illegal and corruptible backdoor. We've been working hard as an executive and legislature since August 2022 to create strong laws that will stand the test of time in eradicating the culture of corruption that was saturating our society. Therefore, it is no surprise that this year's theme, Uniting the World Against Corruption, resonates deeply with and mirrors our aspirations. St. Nevis proudly stands among the nations committed to this global mission. By fostering transparency, fortifying our institutions, and empowering our citizens, we contribute to the international effort against corruption. As Attorney General, I urge every citizen to join hands in this noble cause. Let us unite against corruption, for in our solidarity lies the strength to build a nation free from the shackles of corruption, a nation where justice prevails, opportunities abound, and the flame of hope burns bright. May we continue this journey towards a sustainable island state together, resolute in our commitment to a corruption-free St. Kitts and Nevis. May God bless you. Happy International Anti-Corruption Day.
In regional news, survivors and bodies of a GDF copter crash brought out. Guyana News Source has that story.
A solemn atmosphere enveloped the Eugene F. Correa Airport at Ogle this afternoon as the survivors of the GDF helicopter crash and the bodies of the servicemen who died in that tragedy were brought out from the crash site for the long goodbye. President Irfan Ali and Prime Minister Mark Phillips led a team of well-wishers for the survivors and the mourners for those who passed, that included family members. The two survivors, Lieutenant Andy O'Crawford and Corporal Dwayne Jackson, were the first two to arrive at the airport just after 4 p.m. Some family members held on to each other as the two survivors were removed from the aircraft by medical teams. The president and his team spoke briefly with the survivors, offering a speedy recovery before they were taken to the hospital. The two spent 2 nights in the rugged jungle terrain after surviving that helicopter crash that claimed the lives of 5 of their colleagues. The crash took place on Wednesday morning, and the crash site was spotted 1 day later on Thursday, and the two survivors signaled to the search teams. Special Forces ranks and the medical team were rappelled down into the crash area. Once there, they offered emergency assistance to the survivors while confirming the deaths of the 5 others. Bad weather in the area aborted the attempts to extract the survivors and the bodies of the 5 who died. The medical teams and the Special Forces remained with the survivors and those bodies last evening in the jungle. This morning, the survivors were the first to be extracted, followed by the 5 service members who died. At the airport this afternoon, the chaplain of the Guyana Defense Force said he offered words of comfort and a prayer to the survivors and their families, and the families of the fallen.
The nation mourns with the country. We mourn with the families and the community of the world that we've lost these valiant and highly distinguished service members. Certainly, yes. It's very difficult.
You had a chance to go out there and see the two survivors and meet with them. What word did you impart with them as a chaplain of this force?
Actually, I was observing and just supporting the family members. We offered a prayer for them, and we have some other pastors who did the same. And I believe that this is the most important part at this juncture, to give them support At this time, I spoke with one of the survivors, and this is something that we are still trying to wrap our minds around.
And it was just after 5:30 as the sun went down over the Ogle airport that a military sky van carrying the bodies of the 5 fallen servicemen arrived. Military pallbearers and the military party were on hand. The caskets were first draped with a golden arrowhead before being removed one by one from the sky van. The screams of a grief-stricken relative broke the silence of the moment, and others cried quietly. Tears flowed as the caskets were removed, and the names of each of the fallen was announced. The 5 fallen servicemen, retired Brigadier Gary Beaton, Colonel Michael Shahood, Lieutenant Colonel Sean Welcome, Lieutenant Colonel Michael Charles, and Staff Sergeant Jason Connor. The flag-draped caskets were slowly placed into 5 hearses and then slowly driven to the Memorial Gardens funeral home. A grief-stricken President Irfanali spoke with the family members and greeted the search and rescue teams before he eventually departed. The Chief of Staff of the Air Defense Force, Brigadier Michael Khan, said a full investigation will be conducted into the tragic crash. A cause is still to be determined.
Good evening, sir. Is there anything you can tell us on the investigations so far?
Not as yet, but I'm sure we're going to pronounce on that soon. And it has to do with also the involvement of the Guyana Civil Aviation Authority. So we'll have some word on that soon. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Commented whether there was pilot error. Have you heard that?
It's an investigation to be conducted. I don't know. We don't know once that's completed.
The 7 servicemen were on a mission to the bordering locations to give assurances of those military personnel serving at those locations in wake of the ongoing threats against Guyana by Venezuela. They were on their way from Arau to Etteringbang when tragedy struck, claiming the lives of 5 of the servicemen.
We now bring you these international reports.
Israel's strikes are increasing in intensity and frequency. It's using force as it looks for a diplomatic solution to cross-border tensions with Hezbollah. Israel wants the Lebanese armed group to pull back from the border.
If Hezbollah chooses to start an all-out war, then it will, by its own hand, turn Beirut and southern Lebanon into Gaza and Khan Yunis.
Israel is looking for security guarantees before the tens of thousands of its residents can return to their homes in the north of the country. They were evacuated when Hezbollah opened a front to help relieve Gaza from Israel's onslaught. French and American envoys have been visiting Beirut, trying to mediate a political arrangement to end the cross-border fighting.
There was also the visit of the chief of French intelligence, who reportedly said Lebanon could face big threats if Hezbollah doesn't move north of the Litani River and implement the UN resolution, but those threats came to nothing.
Israel says UN Resolution 1701, adopted after its last war against Hezbollah in 2006, was never implemented. It calls for the disarmament of all non-state armed forces in Lebanon and the region from the border to the Litani River, free from arms and fighters outside state control.
No UN resolution can lead to that without short of a military intervention. I mean, obviously, this is not desired by the Israeli nor by the Americans at this point.
The U.S. is also pushing to resolve border disagreements that gives Hezbollah a reason to remain armed. Hezbollah has not commented on Israel's demand to pull back from the border, but its allies have been defiant. They say the international border is clear and known and not up for negotiations. Israel is the one violating Resolution 1701, and if Israel wants security, it should create a buffer zone on its side of the border. Hezbollah has said this border will remain an active front until Israel stops its attacks on Gaza. And the situation is gradually escalating. The area of military operation has widened, with the front line moving several kilometers deeper inside both countries. Zana Khuder, Al Jazeera, Beirut.
Unprecedented crowds expressing widespread support for Palestinians in Gaza. From New York and Washington, D.C. and across the United States, more than 1 million Americans have been taking part in protests, marches, and vigils since October the 7th. This protest in the Capitol marks the largest pro-Palestinian mobilization in U.S. history, with many calling on the government to stop its military support for Israel.
Enough is enough. It can't go on. And we need the White House. We need Biden to listen because you can hear it out here.
In London, a pro-Palestinian march stretched across several streets. And from Paris to Berlin, people from different races and religions denounced the massacres committed in the Gaza Strip.
I think when you see the diversity of the people here, they don't have to be Arab, they don't have to be Muslim. Me personally, I'm not Muslim, I'm Christian, Palestinian. I think the message is like the general sentiment and of the population is that like something has to be done.
In the Philippines and other countries across Asia, calls to free Palestine resonated among thousands of demonstrators. And despite the distance for many in Latin America, the Palestinian cause feels close to home.
This cannot be called a war. It's a genocide, and that's why the protests will continue.
We charge you with genocide! The scars of apartheid in South Africa have led both the government and protesters to condemn inequality among Israel's minorities, while also pointing to injustices faced by Palestinians in occupied territories.
We marched against apartheid in South Africa, and there's no reason why we will not stand up for apartheid again.
For generations, communities across the Middle East have called for an end to the occupation and the forced displacement of Palestinians. In Yemen and the wider region, those cries are growing louder.
Our first and main cause is to support Palestinians, and we will not give up.
And while in Gaza, civilians say they feel their plight is ignored, millions of people around the world want to make sure they know their cries are being heard. Katia Lopez-Odoyan, Al Jazeera.
Sickle cell disease is an inherited condition that affects an estimated 20 million people worldwide, including in Africa, India, and the U.S. The disease is characterized by abnormally shaped red blood cells. It can cause kidney failure, blindness, stroke, and early death. And it is excruciatingly painful.
For me, it feels like my body is starving for oxygen. And it's suffocating. You know what I mean? I feel like I feel myself dying.
Now the U.S. Food and Drug Administration has approved 2 new therapies for sickle cell disease using gene editing technology known as CRISPR. A therapy developed by the Vertex company uses a patient's own cells removed and modified to produce normally shaped blood cells.
Our patients will come in, they will have their stem cells taken out, at least some of them. They get to keep everything else, but there's the stem cells, some of their stem cells are harvested. Those go back to the manufacturer. In the case of Vertex's product, Casgevy, there they perform CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing, where they're actually editing the gene that ordinarily helps regulate fetal hemoglobin production in our bodies.
However, the therapy is expensive, lengthy, and grueling. There are very few medical facilities authorized to perform it, even in the U.S., and fewer still in countries like Nigeria, which has the largest number of sickle cell patients.
So it is going to be a problem for us to be able to roll this out to where the vast majority of patients with this disease live.
Scientists believe the sickle cell treatment is only the first of what will likely be a wave of gene editing therapies for cancer, cystic fibrosis, and many other chronic diseases.
The lessons that we learn here, the models that we set, are hopefully going to be able to extend this technology out to numerous other diseases where patients suffering with those illnesses will themselves be able to get a one-time intervention that will change the course of the rest of their lives.
CRISPR technology has only been in existence for a decade. Future advances may bring medical benefits that doctors and patients today can only dream of. Rob Reynolds, Al Jazeera.
Russia fired cruise missiles at Ukraine on Friday for the first time in more than 2 months. The air raid in Kyiv lasted almost 2 hours, and all the missiles heading towards the Ukrainian capital were intercepted and destroyed by Western-supplied air defences. The central parts of the country also saw strikes. 1 person was killed and 4 others were injured in the city of Pavlograd. 6 long-range surface-to-air missiles were fired at the eastern Kharkiv region, with residential buildings destroyed, 1 dead and several others injured. The new attacks come as Vladimir Putin announced that he will stand for re-election for the 5th time as Russian president when his term ends next year. Our correspondent Jess Parker is in Kyiv with this update.
President Putin's announcement that he's going to stand for a further term in office isn't exactly welcome news here in Ukraine, but does rather make a point that he can seemingly hold on to power while many believe he is waiting for Western support for Ukraine to ebb away and crack. And the next week or so could be a crucial test of that. There are 2 packages of support that appear to be in jeopardy because of political wrangling. One is economic assistance from the European Union, and the other is defence aid from the United States. Many billions of pounds worth that has been caught up, entangled in domestic political issues. Now, for Ukraine, as winter sets in and after its faltering counter-offensive, the idea that US defence aid could start to dry up is almost unthinkable. So crucial has it been on the battlefield. So Ukrainians will be hoping, praying that what President Putin may believe is proven to be wrong.
Ukraine's First Lady, Olena Zelenska, has warned that Ukrainians will be left to die if Western countries don't continue to support the war effort. In the 2 years since Russia's invasion, the country has relied on billions of dollars from its overseas allies. In an exclusive interview with the BBC's Laura Kunsberg, the First Lady expressed grave concern over delays in funding, saying Ukrainians were in mortal danger.
We do need aid desperately. In simple terms, we cannot get tired of the situation, because otherwise we will die. And if the world gets tired, they will simply let us die.
You are listening to the Midday News on WINNFM 98.9. The headlines: St. Kitts and Nevis commemorates International Anti-Corruption Day. Good governance transformation underway. Survivors and bodies of a GDF copter crash brought out. Internationally Israel-Lebanon border. Steady buildup of hostilities for the past 2 months. Thank you for listening.
That was the WINNFM Headline News. The Headline News was brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, and Caribbean.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International. By land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
When it comes to the important things in life, your health, your education, your choice of a life partner, and of course your insurance provider, only the best will do. Caribbean Alliance Insurance is the only insurance company in the Eastern Caribbean with an A excellent rating. We have a robust 3-tier reinsurance strategy that protects our policyholders from multiple catastrophes, even if they occur in quick succession. We spread our risks over 18 territories, ensuring minimal impact to individual territories when a disaster strikes. We provide an excellent claims experience. Claim settlement is usually between 24 to 48 hours. Our A excellent rating means that you are more secure with us. Contact us for motor, property, marine, public liability, employer's liability, and other policies. Delisle Walwyn, people you can trust. Local agent for Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tomorrow secured.
Infertility is a word that a lot of people are ashamed to mention. A lot of people are so illiterate when it comes to that word that they act as if it's a crime if a woman don't have a child. But I don't think so. I don't have a child. I may one day, but in the meantime, I'm gonna share my love. Not having a child don't make me any less than a woman, 'cause I got so much love to give to so much unwanted care. You can say all you want about me, try and ruin my reputation. I still got so much love to give to so much unwanted care. Listen to my song. I may not know the joy of giving birth, may not
You found the sound. 98.9 Win FM.
People make the world go
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Unwrap the joy this Christmas with DDC. Dive into our all-in-one Christmas package. Purchase a 2024 model from TDC Automotive and seize an auto loan at just 4.75% from TDC Financial Services. No deposit, no repayments for the first 3 months, and up to 8.5 years to repay. Because your dream car deserves a dream deal. And that's not all. Drive worry-free with TDC Insurance. Enjoy up to 60% no-claim discount. Make your holidays unforgettable with TDC, where every drive is a celebration. Hurry, visit TDC today and let us make your Christmas extraordinary. Terms and conditions apply. TDC, your road to a festive ride.
Yes, this is 50. People make the world go
Welcome back to Inside the News here on Win FM. I'm Jermaine Abel sitting in today, and we're looking at today being International Anti-Corruption Day, and the government of St. Kitts and Nevis has been taking measures and putting legislation in place to prevent, going forward, any thought or ideas or plans for corruption. So we've seen throughout 2023 and probably a bit of 2022 as well, a number of legislation were passed and amended in order to, be part of the good governance agenda. They've operationalized the Integrity Commission. They have been able to pass a number of critical pieces of legislation, the Integrity in Public Life, the Freedom of Information, among others. And there's also discussions surrounding updating or amending the Procurement Act in St. Kitts and Nevis to strengthen and, weed out any loopholes that may be found within them. But as we continue here on the program, I just want to play a bit of what the Attorney General had to say yesterday in his speech surrounding for International Anti-Corruption Day here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And then we'll hear a bit from the Director of Public Prosecutions surrounding the fact that not a lot of, as you would see the story published on WinFM's website, 1/5 of public officials have been filing their declarations. So we'll hear from the Attorney General now, and then we'll continue with the discussions here on WinFM.
Fellow Kittitians and Divisions, home and abroad, and all persons who choose our beloved Federation to be your home. On December 9, 2023, we joined with the international community of responsible nations in observing International Anti-Corruption Day. As we observe this solemn occasion, I stand before you to reflect on the negative impact of corruption, the crucial importance of eradicating it, and the strides our nation has taken in the past few months in the relentless fight against this pervasive menace. Corruption, in all its forms, inflicts severe harm upon our society. It undermines the very fabric of justice, hampers economic progress, and erodes public trust in our institutions. The corrosive effects of corruption spare no one, threatening the well-being of our citizens and the sustainable future of our beloved Federation. Eradicating corruption is not merely an ethical imperative, but a pragmatic necessity. It is a commitment to justice, fairness, and the prosperity of our nation. Corruption siphons resources away from critical sectors, hindering our ability to provide essential services, promote economic growth, and invest in the well-being of our people. A corrupt society breeds inequality, obstructs opportunities for the vulnerable, and fetters the dreams and aspirations of our youth. Therefore, the eradication of corruption is a collective responsibility, a shared commitment to building a St. Kitts and Nevis where every citizen can thrive without fear or favor. After all, as it is said in our Constitution, we are people who desire the creation of a climate of economic well-being in the context of respect for law and order. In our unwavering pursuit of a corruption-free future, St. Kitts and Nevis has embarked on a comprehensive legal reform journey. Our Federation proudly joins our trustworthy colleagues in the international community to stand united against corruption, with a formidable arsenal of legislative measures aimed at safeguarding the integrity of our institutions. Our new Anti-Corruption Act, brought into force on December 8, 2023, establishes specific and wide-ranging corruption offences and clearly delineates what actions will no longer be tolerated by senior government officials, the public service, state entity employees, and public sector contractors. The Act also creates the Office of the Special Prosecutor to monitor and investigate reported corrupt activities in government. This year, we amended and fully operationalized our Integrity in Public Life Act to require high-level public officials to disclose their assets, liabilities, and income annually. This transparency measure, overseen by the Integrity Commission, reinforces our commitment to public office accountability. The Freedom of Information Act, also amended and activated this year, empowers the public and press to access non-confidential government information, promoting transparency and removing the widely perceived cloak of public sector secrecy. Delegated information officers in each ministry will facilitate this access, marking a significant step towards openness in government. The brand new Whistleblower Protection Act 2023, also brought into force on December 8th, acknowledges the vital role of whistleblowers and acts as a shield to those who expose corrupt activities within the public service. It therefore complements the Anti-Corruption Act, giving teeth to our fight against corruption. And lastly, but not by any means the least, the Unauthorized Disclosure of Official Information Act 2023 creates a robust legal framework to prevent the unauthorized leaks of sensitive, confidential, and privileged government information, ensuring that the proper avenue to government information is through the mechanisms of the Freedom of Information Act. Just as corrupt persons can give benefits or contracts to illicit actors, so can corrupt persons leak confidential state information to criminals and terrorists for a fee. This act aims to close that illegal and corruptible backdoor. We've been working hard as an executive and legislature since August 2022 to create strong laws that will stand the test of time in eradicating the culture of corruption that was saturating our society. Therefore, it is no surprise that this year's theme, Uniting the World Against Corruption, resonates deeply with and mirrors our aspirations. St. Kitts and Nevis proudly stands among the nations committed to this global mission. By fostering transparency, fortifying our institutions, and empowering our citizens, we contribute to the international effort against corruption. As Attorney General, I urge every citizen to join hands in this noble cause. Let us unite against corruption, for in our solidarity lies the strength to build a nation free from the shackles of corruption, a nation where justice prevails, opportunities abound, and the flame of hope burns bright. May we continue this journey towards a sustainable island state together, resolute in our commitment to a corruption-free St. Kitts and Nevis. May God bless you. Happy International Anti-Corruption Day.
People make the world go
There you had it. There you had it. That was the Attorney General, the Honorable Garrett Wilkin, giving a speech yesterday to recognize today as International Day Against Corruption, or Anti-Corruption Day. And he was sharing his perspectives. We'll take this caller and then we'll hear from the DPP. Caller, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes.
Yes. With regards to the good governance press conference, it was really an interesting session, very informative, but also very instructive. There are a number of things that stood out for me. The first was the overall tone of the panelists. I got the impression that the federal commissioners in particular were a bit more timid than the Nevis ones, and were inclined to give the politicians and public officials almost a pass, when I think they should have adopted a more no-nonsense posture like the DPP did, right? Basically, he said, comply or face the consequences. It's the law. And it certainly explains why, even though the IPL commissioners, the commission was instituted several years ago, their presence has not really been felt. And things were just allowed to slide and people became cynical. It's almost as if people were just ticking a box to look good on the World Justice Project report.
Just to interject there, caller. Well, initially, because, and I said this earlier in the last hour, that the issue that they had at the time was that even though legislation were passed and they became operational, there were critical pieces to the legislation that were needed to actually allow them to do their jobs at the time. That is why, and we heard this at the press conference, that, they were very much, I don't want to say frustrated, but you heard that frustration at the time, that they were, even though that they were established and all of that, that critical piece of legislation needed to be updated and included. That was included this year when the Attorney General, I think he amended the act or the legislation, so that's when they became operational.
Well, you can buy that. I didn't hear no advocacy for the legislation to change before this. And as a matter of fact, on the panel, to me they seemed overly preoccupied with emphasizing the process which almost appears open-ended. For they are the ones who would essentially reserve judgment on when to pass cases over to the DPP, right? Bear in mind past experience with our politicians, and you've just mentioned some, not giving the commission enough teeth and that sort of thing. I thought the commission is not a place to show benevolence, if you want to call it that. It's a place to make examples of them, right? I mean, I prefer the DPP posture, put it that way, okay? I think his was more business-like, right? It was interesting, too, that the AG himself put a question to the DPP. Kind of put him on the spot when he asked him to pronounce on the overall atmosphere here vis-a-vis corruption since he has arrived. I thought you were there, right?
Yes.
Right. You saw his initial apprehension. To me, that was ominous, right? He was clearly not impressed with what he has seen. I think that actually he should have turned the question back to the AG and asked the AG to assure the public that since the new government came in, that corrupt practices have ended. I mean, things like the procurement laws were followed to the letter. As a matter of fact, the AG himself mentioned that the Procurement Act needed to be strengthened. That itself probably answers that question. And overall, the Nevis commissioners, they all but derided and chided the Nevis administration for the approach to good governance, basically saying they've gone backwards. I thought that was really instructive, right? I would have liked, to be quite honest, a number of questions answered. First of all, can this suite of legislation act as a check and balance against the powers of the Prime Minister, right? We've heard how cabinet ministers in the past have complained of not knowing what's going on with certain key programs, Okay, never mind us, the public. You know, and if the thing is, if things are not open, then you're going to have corruption because it can be hidden, right? So can this suite of legislation prevent that? Secondly, can the AG assure us that there has been, no breach in things like the Procurement Act since and the award of contracts since the new government assumed office? I noticed there was a question asked about retroactivity. You know, that would be interesting to see if, in fact, you know, the past offences can be not only corrected, but you know, there should be some consequence for breach. And thirdly, why aren't other organs that are essential to anti-corruption in government, why weren't they included? I'm thinking on the panel, I'm thinking, for instance, of the Public Accounts Committee, the Director of Audit. Okay? To me, those are key positions that are designed to prevent abuse of power, corruption.
So Carla, are you saying that they're not included in the legislation?
No, I'm saying that it should have been on the panel. The panel seemed to be comprised of persons who are going to be in the fight against corruption, right? And I'm saying that the Public Accounts Committee, the chairman and the other members, the Director of Audit.
But remember, right, Carla, as you mentioned, the Public Accounts Committee, right? The Public Accounts Committee would be headed by the Leader of the Opposition, who also is subjected to financial disclosures to the Integrity Commission. And I suspect, right, that, you know, the Director of Audit and all these directors will also be subjected to that. But I get your point that they should have been on the panel yesterday. But
it's not so much them, you know. It's not so much their declarations and so on. It's to make sure that the government accounts are good, to make sure that there is not government overreach. That those are key things of things like the Public Accounts Committee and the Director of Audit.
But
see what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you mean, right? But I have to. Right, but I'll give you 30 seconds to respond to this because there's a caller calling.
Yeah,
30 seconds, though.
I'm going to finish now.
But just speak. Go ahead.
Uh-huh. Yeah. What I was going to say, the electoral office, I think, which is the bedrock of our democracy, I think the people on that commission should have been there as well. Okay, they are foundational, and I'm wondering too. All those people at the top, they are human beings as well. They can be not these individually, but people on the commissions, on the other entities there, can be corrupted as well. So what safeguards are there against? Who are they accountable? What safeguards are there to prevent corruption and collusion at that level, right? And who classifies things like what is secret or sensitive? What are the classification standards? You know, and finally the timelines, right? You've heard where they can be ignored, right? And as a matter of fact, the Ombudsman, I think, complained about that. What safeguards are there to prevent things like delay and obstruction? Because I could see that as becoming really, really a way to, as a loophole, put it that way.
Okay.
And get this thing.
Yeah, let me respond to that. That particular question was asked yesterday as well. What sort of loophole the loopholes in terms of time and all of that? It comes back to where they can be charged for basically, I don't remember the name of it, but willful neglect of, giving that information or something like that. But yeah, there are checks and balances within the legislation. I think what is needed surrounding the whole issue of the whole good governance agenda is, I think the government needs to do a bit more in terms of educating the public on some of the legislation that they passed surrounding good governance and corruption and all of that. I think that's what's one of the challenges surrounding people having a better understanding of some of these pieces of key legislation that were passed. It might just be, this might be good governance now, but there are some others in terms of freedom of information and all these other suites of legislation that were passed. Freedom of information, who can benefit from freedom of information, or the upgrading of the amendment to the integrity in public life, the procurement that is to come, and so forth. I think all of this is what's needed, yes, but to get the people to better understand them, I think is one of the critical things that's actually missing right now. We'll quickly go acknowledge our partners, TDC and TDC and Carib Brewery, who make this program possible. And on the other side of the break, we'll take more calls, but I just want to play quickly what the DPP said yesterday. I know we've all been talking about it and referencing, but I want the public to hear in general what the DPP said yesterday surrounding some of the measures and his position when it comes to the whole issue of people not declaring their assets to the commission. Yes, to the commission, that he has really taken a firm approach to dealing with those people. So we'll hear from you when we come back.
People make the world go round.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
50,000?
50,000?
$50,000? Win big with TDC! Win up to $50,000 cash in the TDC Mega Rewards Mega Raffle! To enter, you must be a Mega Rewards member or sign up to TDC Mega Rewards Loyalty Program. Shop at our TDC retail stores or online at shoptdcgroup.com to receive one entry for every $250 spent. Draws take place from July to November. Win $10,000 every month with your entry rolled over so you can win and win even more.
Yes, this is 50.
Terms and conditions apply.
People make the world go
And we're back here on Win FM. I just want to quickly give you play the clip, and then we'll go back to the phone lines. I'm not ignoring the phone lines. I just wanted you to hear what the DPP had to say yesterday. I know some of you would have heard what he said, but this is exactly what he said yesterday surrounding those people who have flouted the deadline set by the Integrity Commission in order to submit their declarations. Right, he has taken a no-nonsense approach because he himself have filed since he came to St. Kitts and Nevis in keeping with the regulations. So he believes that, everyone should be able to abide by the law.
Adlai Smith, Director of Public Prosecution. I took up this office on the 6th of October 2023. Within the first 2 weeks, I made it my mission to see or have meetings with key stakeholders in the justice system here. And one of those would have been the head of the Integrity Commission. I made it a point to have a personal meeting, and I sat down basically to ascertain the problems with the functioning of the organization. And in particular, I inquired about this issue of declarations. I won't go into every single discussion, but I will say this. I understand that the deadline had passed since the 31st of July of this year. I said, I don't want it to be a situation whereby, we don't have some sensitivity, because I understand there was some issue with respect to the information in the document. So the decision was taken that the chairman would write to supervisors and persons who are the subject of the obligation to furnish information under the Act. They were given a deadline of December 1st to file. If they don't file by that time, the names may be handed over to the Director of Public Prosecutions. I must say, I won't say what the figure is, but I was not satisfied with the level of compliance when I had the meeting the first time. It was less than 1/5, I think. I don't know what the figure is now. As Director of Public Prosecutions, I too am subject to this particular obligation. Even though I have 100 days within to file from the 6th of October, I said it wouldn't make no sense coming here and saying, teaching about filing obligations, and I haven't filed. So on the deadline, I filed well in advance. And I inquired, have there been filings? There are persons who are outstanding. I say, oh, I've asked the Commission to furnish me with the names of those persons. And when those names are furnished, it's just a matter of putting in the names of the individuals into the charges which I've already drafted. I'm not playing. I have, let me see, I took a screenshot from my computer this morning. To give you an idea what the charge sounds like. See, the AG said that the persons at this table understand what their responsibility is with respect to the legislation. I understand my role, and I have a key role to play in the enforcement of the Integrity and Public Life Act. The first charge, failure to furnish information, and it would read like this, dash whoever the name is. And the thing is, the beauty, I don't know anybody here, so nobody can say that I'm showing favoritism or anything, whether one party or otherwise or whatever. Blank. Between 31st day of July and dash day, being a public official, did fail without reasonable cause to furnish to the Integrity Commission a declaration which he or she is required to furnish in accordance with the provisions of the Integrity and Public Life Act, contrary to Section 31(1) of the Integrity and Public Life Act, Cap 22(1)(8) of the laws of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. For those persons who have been asked by the Commission to submit those names of persons who are supposed to be filing and didn't do so, you could be charged either with aiding and abetting under subsection 2 of the section, or if we're trying to find the names now, if you haven't filed them, and you fail to produce information, we'll charge you with accessory after the fact to failure to furnish information. And it reads thus, dash, between such and such a date and such a date, knowing that, dash, failed to furnish information pursuant to the Integrity and Public Life Act, did assist the said dash to escape justice by failing to provide the chairman of the Integrity Commission with the name of dash under his or her supervision who was required to furnish information to the Integrity Commission. I am simply awaiting the names.
People make the world go
There you had it. That was the DPP, and we go back to the phone lines and hear from this caller. Caller, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you. Greetings in Jesus' name. the only Savior of sinners from their sin and from hell, and the second person of the eternal Trinity. Now, I would like to address the issue with corruption as you're playing, as you're speaking up. But first, I would like to say, to let everybody know that without Christmas, there is no Easter, and Easter is the result of Christmas. Because without the birth of Christ, he couldn't born to save his chosen elect sinners from their sins and from hell as well. That's number one. Number two, of lesser importance concerning the corruption issue. You see, number one, we don't understand the nature of man. And based upon the truth of the Bible, the nature of man is he was conceived with an evil, corrupt, perverted, sinful nature. And because of that, it affects everything man does, be it government, business, family, church, the individual himself, you name it, on every level. That corrupt, evil, wicked, sinful nature that we all inherited from Adam affect everything we do and affect us completely as well. And because of that, the only solution in dealing with corruption and all of such is the source that understands human nature, and that is the Bible only. And unless we go to the Bible for the solution, we will never ever have them, and we will only be making things worse. And that is why, for example, where government is concerned, the Bible limits government very severely to what it is given to do by God Almighty, by Jesus Christ. And when we go beyond those biblical duties, you're stepping into areas that are going to increase corruption and that sort of stuff. Because the more government owns, the more power government have, the more authority government has, the more it directs, the more it controls and that sort of stuff, is the more you increase the chances of corruption. You know, Lord Acton said, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Now, people would repeat it, but they don't understand it. No, I don't believe power corrupts. I do not believe that. I believe power brings out the corruption more because we are born corrupt because of Adam's sinful nature that we inherited based upon Romans chapter 5. So I think that part of the saying is wrong, that power corrupts. No, power brings out and unleash the corruption even more.
Okay, so...
And absolute power makes it even more absolute.
Okay, so Carla, I want to get from you, right? What do you think that we as a society, knowing based on what you said that man basically was born into corruption, that's just of what I understand you're saying, right? And
with the corrupt sinful nature, yeah.
Yes, and basically what we're seeing, we're basically acting out what is in our hearts. But what more can we do as societies? It might not just be St. Kitts and Nevis, minus the church, because the church has its role to play. But what in society in general, what can we do to prevent man in general from acting out its corruption? Because we've seen that the government in St. Kitts and Nevis has passed legislation. We've seen what has been happening in the U.S. under former President Donald Trump. We've been seeing what has been happening in various countries across the Caribbean region. When we look at what's happening in Haiti, for example, how do we minimize corruption in general?
Well, as I mentioned, yes, it ain't just Trump. We're seeing the corruption under all the U.S. presidents, including Biden, Obama, Clinton, Reagan, all of them. So just don't blame Trump only. It's all of them. And in other countries too. That is why, for example, the Bible lays out the biblical qualifications of leaders, be it in government or anyways, but especially in the church and in government. We tell you, for example, in Exodus 18, verse 21, foremost, he must be a person who fear God, who have a history of, and who is known to be a person who rejects bribes and that sort of stuff. Read that passage in Exodus chapter 18, verse 21. And I also believe that the qualifications of a deacon in the church also apply to government, because government in Romans chapter 13 are also called deacons. But in the King James, you would say ministers. In the King James, you would say minister, but the original Greek word is deacon. So I believe also the qualification for deacons in the New Testament also apply not just to church deacons, but to government officials, because they too are deacons according to Romans 13.
Okay, so
and foremost, there must be people who fear God, who have a changed heart, who have a righteous spiritual heart, because a man who is not a Christian and who is not godly because he's not a Christian, really and truly he's walking in sin and corruption and those sort of stuff. He does not have what it takes to fight corruption because he does not have that godly Christian biblical heart. So that is where it all starts with. And number two, we need to learn what the Bible says concerning the obligations and duties and those sort of stuff concerning government. Because, like I said, in the wisdom of the Bible, it shows you when you make government too big, with too much obligations and that sort of stuff, you increases the chances of corruption. Because, like I said, power brings out the corruption. I'm not going to say like Lord Acton that power corrupts, no, because we're born corrupt.
Okay,
but
so
power brings out corruption,
point, right,
and absolute power brings out absolutely.
So on this particular point, right? On this particular point, I want to get from you, but I have another call coming. So I'll give you 30 to 45 seconds to respond. When we look at power and all of this as you're describing, and these things lead to, and the expanded government lead to corruption, quote unquote. So do you believe that, one, we should have term limits for parliamentarians in general, wherever it be, St. Kitts, across the Caribbean, internationally, we should have term limits, one, and two, there should be a minimum standard in terms of qualification for these people. 30 seconds.
Well, America have term limits, Guyana have term limits, other places have term limits, and the governments are very corrupt.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, term limits is not the answer. The answer is in the Bible. One, your leaders must first meet the biblical qualifications, and two, we must do things according to the teachings of the Bible in limited government to its biblical functions and not go beyond it or below it. And lastly, I would like to say, to tell people to remember, Easter is the result of Christmas, and without Christmas, we won't have Easter. We won't have the death of Christ for our salvation. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thanks, caller. That caller was sharing his view on supposed corruption. When I was asking the caller just a while ago, it's not in terms of just prime ministers or leaders, but parliamentarians, ministers of government, those functioning in certain capacities as leaders within the realm of leadership in government itself. You know, you might have a minister who spends 60 years in office, as we've been seeing in the United States, or we may have seen somebody who is the leader of government business or something of that nature. So do we set term limits as one way to mitigate these problems? How do we strengthen our resilience in terms of policing and ensuring that all aspects of government business, the rule of law, and all of these initiatives are actually being able to prosper in a society and a small island state like St. Kitts and Nevis? We go back to the phone lines and we'll hear from this caller. Caller, good afternoon. Sorry, we lost that caller. But yes, how do we as a society begin to police this? And I know people are going to want to jump down the realm of politics. Yeah, people are going to want to jump down the realm of politics when we come to this particular topic. But let's quickly hear from this caller. Caller, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you, sir?
I'm well, and yourself?
I'm doing great. Now, to the last caller who just spoke about the Bible is the way. Now, let us look at the international countries, Abel. They push democracies on other countries, right? And they read from the same Bible. Are they not corrupt? Why I'm asking this question, Mr. Abel, they are pushing democracy on underdeveloped countries. And what are their democracy? Does their democracy work for other countries that they're pushing? Are they trying to impose their democracy on other countries? They read from the same Bible. But you know, now I'm saying this in the backdrop of your last caller, Mr. Abel. When he quotes the scripture, Satan does not go against Satan. They have imposed democracy in their narrative with their agenda because they are not going to allow underdeveloped countries to come to become like them or to, as we would say, to overpower them. It's like we, as Africans, asking for reparation. They will never give us reparation because they want us where we are in order for them to maintain and manage us. You see, I mean, the caller is pulling the scriptures, Mr. Abel, but he failed to acknowledge the holistic observation of what the scripture is about. Satan does not go against Satan. I mean, look at the CCJ. Now, the CCJ with what is going on between Venezuela and Guyana. The CCJ is a branch of the international system. We need to question these people with hard questions, Mr. Abel. But no one of us is asking the hard questions. We are just going along to get along. And look at what is happening. If you listen to Antonio Guterres, what is he saying? He's talking about how hot 2023 is. But guess what? 24 is going to be hotter. I mean, you said it in your opening statement. We are expecting more hurricanes, severe. Look at what is going on in Iceland. You know what is going on, Mr. Abel? The earth is cleaning itself. This rudiment of wickedness and ego, greed, corruption, and all that, we have a new earth, but they are telling us that there's a new world order. Abel, the earth is cleaning itself. And if you're in this third dimension, most likely many of us are going to perish. They gave us COVID, and we feel like we are out of the woods. We are back to normalcy. We are not, because the philanthropists are predicting that there's going to be another virus in 2025. So, Abel,
okay,
what they're telling us about New World Order is this New World Earth, the new Earth, which is now 5 dimension. But we gravitate to New World Order and all the theatrics that they're throwing at us with climate change, global warming. The earth is getting rid of those wickedness that was acted out by this system.
Okay, Carla, just as you mentioned on that, right? Let's piggyback quickly on the topic of leadership and the issue of corruption, right? How do we deal specifically with this issue holistically? Let's look from a St. Kitts and Nevis perspective, right? Because every territory, every country internationally can actually be able to pass legislation, various legislation. And it might not be perfect, as the AG said, but it's a step in the right direction. We make mistakes, and then when we come back, we know where our mistakes were, and then we update. But the issue that we found here, and which is the bottom line of today's program, is how do we get the issue of how do we deal with a particular problem in St. Kitts and Nevis to get people to understand whether or not you're red, you're yellow, you're blue, you're green, you're brown, or whichever party you support. How do we get the message over to those people?
Mr. Abel, corruption is sweet, okay? Corruption is sweet to those that are in that sphere. Corruption is sweet. Greed is sweet. Everything that is moving right now, our leaders are attracted to things that is outside of us. Our leaders love to know they are being summoned. Come to Dubai, come to this, come to Egypt. They love these things. And even when our leaders spoke, that they even realized that they are just going for a Photoshop, yes, still in the system. I mean, look at President William Ruto, who spoke when he recognized how African leaders was transported on a bus to the Babylon queen who transitioned last year. He spoke on that, but look at where he's at today. He is their playboy.
Okay.
He's being played, and our leaders need to look beyond this. I always used to say, Abel, when I first started to pay attention to the system, when our leaders go to the United Nations, no one is in the room listening to what they're saying. And I've said, let us question what they're saying behind
I wouldn't
our
agree
back.
with that one. That one call I wouldn't agree with. For someone who covered the United Nations, I wouldn't agree with that.
Listen,
But make
I'm
your
going to
point.
finish now. They're not even saying things behind our backs now. They're saying it to our face, and yet we're still going along with the system. But who are we? We have no value, we have no principle, so we just swallow what they say, and we just go along to get along.
Okay.
Abel.
Just before you go, caller, quickly, I want to get from you, though, when we talk about all of this, how do we, I mean, it's difficult for us to get leaders to change, but do you believe that we should adopt the principle or the idea from the United States that whatever our leaders
No.
Listen, hold on.
The change that we need to adapt to right now is the change that is happening in Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Gabon. Because America, Europe, they divided us, and it worked for them.
But my
European
question,
Union
right,
have
caller?
nothing for us.
No,
we listen to me. I'm going to finish now, Abel. There's a change that is unstoppable, and it's inevitable right now, and it's happening on the continent of Africa. We are Africans. That's the change we need to follow. Now, most people would not support it because they are of age, and they does not see that the youth is going to make the generation coming is going to make the change that we as a collective body of Africans need to adapt to, and it's happening. Change is unstoppable, and it's inevitable because those who have mastered this system, the new earth cannot continue under that system. Thank you for hearing me.
All right, thanks, caller. Yes, so that caller was sharing his perspective and engaging in the discussion. I am supposed to share this notice with the public. It was a little bit earlier. Please note there is a table tennis talent identification program. It was this morning a bit, but I got the notice late. But yeah, they were holding a talent identification program, and that was held at the St. Paul's Community Center. That's the Table Tennis Association of St. Kitts and Nevis. As we prepare to wind down the program, we'll just acknowledge our partners one last time, and then we'll continue with the discussions here on WIN FM.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is WIN FM.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects or sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
It's TDC for me, TDC for we. Neighbor, partner, your family. The best is yet to come, believe me. Moving forward, moving with. Hey, TDC serve the nation with the best customer experience. TDC, you are the one for we. Happy anniversary. Together we succeed. Building on strong community. Pressing on forward to our destiny. One love, one family. Together we succeed. Let the whole world see. Yes, this is 50.
People make the world go round.
And we're back here on Inside the News on WIN FM. We're just about to wrap up the program. We'll take one caller here. Caller, good afternoon. Can you keep your comments short? I guess we didn't get that caller. Caller, good. Oh. Yeah, we lost those two callers there. But yes, we were looking today at. Oh, we go back to the phone line. Caller, good afternoon.
Yes, hello. Yes, I'm going to quickly say that. Like I said, in order to fight corruption, a person has have to be godly and Christian, transformed by the Holy Spirit. Not just reading the Bible, because even Satan quoted the Bible to Jesus. But he misquoted it. And the Bible also said the demons then believe in one God, but that ain't enough. You have to have a transformed heart by the Holy Spirit of God. That changes your heart from a corrupted heart to a godly Christian biblical heart. And you have to be filled with the knowledge of the Word of God by the Holy Spirit in order to meet the biblical qualifications for leadership, especially in government and in the church. Anything less is unbiblical, and it's instead of it being a solution and answer to the problem, it is part of the problem and won't be able to fight corruption. And that is why the whole world, including here in St. Kitts and Nevis, and all over the world, is so full of corruption.
Okay.
From the highest to the lowest in the land.
Thanks, caller.
Because we are not following what the Bible says we ought to do.
Thanks, caller.
And
yeah, so we are just about out of time. Yes, we're about just out of time just to wrap the program. It was nice spending the last 2.5 hours with you. As I'm about to wrap, I respect everyone's views, opinions, because we are all humans and we're subjected to those. We all have those. We all have a position that we share on any given topic. I might agree, you might not agree with what I say, I might not agree with what you say. But at the end of the day, we have to respect each and everyone's opinion and opinions on whatever issue facing us individually or as a nation. But at the same time, I would not necessarily subscribe to or support anyone criticizing, maligning, or seeking to bash anyone. I do not support. Again, I just wanted to update on some information that came into me earlier based on what a caller said. Like I said in the first hour, yesterday the Commission did indicate that, and as you heard from the DPP in his remarks in the clip that I played, there's a 1/5 or less than 1/5 of public officials who are supposed to file their declaration with the Integrity Commission on St. Kitts have not done so. There has also been the disclosure that 2 elected officials did not file their declaration. Right. The commission did not name anyone, nor will they name them at this point in time. Certain information coming surrounding the Integrity Commission and their findings will not be released publicly unless there's a court order that indicates that it should be made public or a judgment has been made. We were directed yesterday to a judgment that was made, and that's something that the news media will actually begin to look at, because they were urged to take a look at that judgment, right? We do not know the names of the individuals who have not filed. So contrary, and I know an individual did make a point earlier about some people who did not file way back when, but from the messages that I received and the dates that I received, there's an indication that those names are incorrect. The suggestion, that's incorrect. So I just wanted to clear the air on that. Based on the information that I've received, there has been some filing regarding those names who were provided early on. So I just wanted to indicate that that's the case. So just to clear the air, so nobody will be running with that notion that these individuals have not filed their declarations with the Integrity Commission. But it was really good spending the better part of today with you guys. You know, the interaction was really informative. I hope we came to some solution, provided some update, and we all have a better understanding of the Integrity in Public Life Commission and the work that the current administration is doing surrounding surrounding anti-corruption in St. Kitts and Nevis. A number of measures have been taken, a number of measures are going to continue to be taking place. And again, the fight against corruption, whether here in St. Kitts and Nevis or across the region, is an all-of-society approach in order to fight corruption. Yes, so again, we looked at some of the biggest news impacting us here in St. Kitts and Nevis. We heard a lot about the COP28, which is still ongoing, which wraps up on the 12th. A lot of us do not pay attention to world affairs and see how that impacts us here in St. Kitts and Nevis. But yes, there is some level of impact for us regardless of what happens. So yes, pay attention to what's happening globally. All of that has some level of impact on us here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Also, there is the ongoing issue down south. That too also have an impact on us. Guyana is in mourning right now as it lost 5 soldiers who died in that helicopter crash. And internationally, we have the US President's son was last night indicted on more charges for tax evasion, as well as the ongoing war in Ukraine and the Hamas-Israel issue. But for all of you who are looking to have some fun, West Indies versus England, the decider is on right now, so you can go and enjoy that. In the meantime, stay safe and enjoy the rest of your weekend. So it's goodbye.